Hello everybody, welcome to Amy's Bookshelf. If you have been here before, then welcome back, and if you haven't, then I'm so glad you could join me. So today I'm going to be doing my February wrap-up, all the books I read in February, and I'm going to give you like a really quick overview about what I thought about them, what I rated them, and yeah, just my general ramblings, as I'm sure you're used to if you've watched any of my YouTube videos before. I do tend to waffle. So yeah, without further ado, here is the stack. I've also realised this is like an unintentional rainbow. I really didn't do that on purpose, but yeah. There are 10 books here, but I only read 9 because one of them I DNF'd, and we'll get to that later. But overall it was a pretty good reading month. I tried to focus on reading romance because it was February and I love romance and I don't read enough of it given that it's my favourite genre. So yeah, it was good to get back to some good old romance. So first up we have The Statistical Probability of Love at First Sight by Jennifer E. Smith. This was a reread. I read this, I did look at my Goodreads, I think it was about 7 years ago, and it's just a really cute YA romance. It's nothing groundbreaking, it doesn't do anything we haven't seen before, but if you just want something heartwarming and something lovable and yeah, something that will make you smile, then I would recommend this. I gave it 5 stars when I first read it, and I give it 5 stars again, just for the fact that it feels familiar, it feels warm and lovely, and yeah, it was just a good book. So the premise is 2 people, a boy and a girl, who meet at an airport, and for various reasons they end up on the same plane, sat next to each other, which is very unrealistic, but anyway, we move. And yeah, they get to know each other, and you know, I won't spoil the book, but it is a romance, so you can see where it's going. And yeah, I don't really have much more to say about this, to be honest, because it was just cute. And yeah, if you want to get back into romance, if you're in a reading slump maybe and you're looking for something to get you out of it, then this will probably do that. So pick yourself up a copy. Next we have the book that just about everybody and your mother has read, which is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I was obviously intrigued by this because everybody was reading it, and it's kind of difficult to class this as a romance. There's definitely romance elements. There are people who fall in love, there are people who start relationships, but it's tricky to give it the romance label because it has a lot more to it than that, and also it has a lot of very dark moments, which obviously romance can be dark, but I think the nature of this book, or the point of the book, isn't the romance, it's the message that the author is trying to send with everything else that happens in it. So it is about, oh yeah, I forgot her name, it's so stupid. Her name is Lily Bloom, and her dream is to own a flower shop, honestly. And she meets a guy called Ryle, and they hit it off straight away, and they start a relationship. And then a guy called Atlas, who she knew earlier in her life when she was still at school, comes back into her life and basically causes a bit of upheaval. So the book follows the 3 of them, Lily and Ryle, in this relationship, and then basically the spanner in the works that Atlas causes by coming back into Lily's life. I really loved this. I think it completely lived up to the hype. I think Colleen Hoover definitely isn't perfect. There were pieces of dialogue and bits of the narrative which I don't think were amazing, but I don't think it takes away from the overall impact of the book, and this is one of those books that you will be thinking about for a long time after you turn the final page. And I think when books are that impactful, you can't really just let them slide. And I don't think a book has to be perfect to be 5 stars. You just have to know that you got what you wanted from it, which I definitely did. It was entertaining, but it was also heartbreaking and profound, and yeah, overall I just really liked it. I forgot to say at the beginning, as I always do, I did this in my January wrap up, but if I have done a spoiler-free review, which I have of this, then I'll leave it in the description below so you can read my thoughts properly, and obviously I've got a little bit more in-depth reviewing on my blog. So yeah, this is just like a quick whistle-stop tour, but my blog will give you a little bit more detail if you want to read it. So next we have You Had Me at Hello by Mari McFarlane. This I borrowed from my friend Jazz from Travels and Fiction, and it was really cute. However, I didn't love it. I gave it 3 stars because it was just Yeah, it could have been a lot better, and there was some language used in it which is very questionable given that it was published in 2011. I think some language that they use, I would expect a book to maybe have if it was in the early 2000s, but I think by 2011 we are educated enough to realise that that language is not acceptable anymore. So that is one of the big reasons this didn't rate very highly for me, because I just wasn't very impressed with it. And overall the storyline was okay. It was cute and it was fun, but it's very forgettable overall. So yeah, I wasn't bowled over by this. Then we have The Girl Who Reads on the Metro by Christine Feray-Fleury. I apologise again for that pronunciation. So I did a bit more of an in-depth look at this book in a previous video. You can check it out here. I'll put the link above. And that was for translated books that I'd recommend you go read. This is translated from French, and it's only short, 197 pages, and it is just stunning. It is beautiful. I loved it. I will not stop thinking about it. Go read this book. Easily 5 stars. To be honest, there's not much plot, and again I reviewed it on my blog, so I'll leave the description below, and there wasn't much plot, but I just didn't really care. There didn't need to be any plot because the writing was so beautiful and everything felt so profound and thought-provoking, and her musings on the world and humanity and the universe was I loved it. So yeah, go read this, then go watch my video and go read the review, and I promise you'll be convinced that it's going to be worth your while. Then we have What If It's Us by Becky Albertalli and Adam Silvera. I've read Becky Albertalli and Adam Silvera before. I've read Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda and what's that book called? They both die. They both die at the end. They both die at the end. And I love both of those books. I had some logistical issues with They Both Die at the End, but overall I liked the premise and I liked the writing, so not going to beef with it too much. This, on the other hand, again, I gave this one 3 stars as well, and it wasn't actually anything necessarily wrong with it. I was just a little bit bored. Everything felt a bit too predictable, but not in like a familiar way, in a bit of a boring way. And I don't know, some of the dialogue just felt a little bit too forced, and I don't need my romances to be realistic. I actually quite like it when romances are a bit unrealistic because we escape into books, so why do we want to read about the real world? But given that it was very much set in the real world with real world characters, I just wanted it to be a little bit more spontaneous and imperfect, and it felt a little bit too polished for my liking. So yeah, overall not a bad book, and if you want a cute romance then pick this one up. But yeah, I wasn't head over heels for it. Then we have Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is the second book in the Brown Sisters series. The first one is Chloe Brown and the second one is the third one is Eve Brown. I've not yet read Eve Brown, but I've read Chloe Brown, and both this and Chloe Brown, amazing. Talia Hibbert is such a fantastic romance writer. They are just gorgeous and funny and witty and honest, and I just adore them. Now, like I've said with Chloe Brown, these books are quite graphic. If you're not really into like graphic sex, then you might not want to read it, but it's not done in a way that makes you think it's unnecessary. It fits perfectly with the nature of Talia Hibbert's writing and with the storyline, and actually I think it just adds to the book. And I've had a conversation on my Instagram recently with some people because I got a bit of negative feedback from somebody after I posted a reel which was about 9 books with good sex scenes, and this was one of the ones in it. And somebody commented basically saying, oh, why can't romance just be clean like it used to be, which is the most ridiculous comment, because one of the things that this book celebrate is just having sex. There's no point in pretending that we don't have sex, and so I love Talia Hibbert, and yeah, the way that the books just celebrate sex and real life, real relationships, real messy relationships. Yeah, they're gorgeous. Please go read this series. Oh, I rated that 5 stars if that wasn't obvious enough. And I actually preferred that to Chloe Brown, interestingly, so I'll be very intrigued to see where the third book sits in that trilogy. Then we have Luster by Raven Lalani. This was in my previous video, I'll link it up here, of 5 books I predict I will give 5 stars this year. And I think this is 5 stars. I've not actually rated it yet because I've not finished writing the review, but I think it's probably a 4.5 rounded up to 5 on Goodreads. And yeah, I was really impressed by it. It's very unapologetic. The storyline is basically about a woman called Edie who ends up being fired from her job, and she ends up, well, she's having an affair with a married man, and then she ends up living with the man, his wife, and their kid. So it's very messy. It's very, yeah, like I said, unapologetic, and I loved Edie's stream of consciousness about the world, the way that she has thoughts that maybe she shouldn't have, or the way that she perceives things in maybe just sort of different and unexpected ways. But like I said, I just love the messiness of this. I wouldn't say it was necessarily like a realistic storyline, because it is a very unique situation that you end up living with the guy you're sleeping with and his wife. So, you know, it's not exactly realistic, but then it is very realistic in the way that it was so unapologetically messy. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed it for that. And I just really like the writing as well. It was just had some really great moments in it. And again, this one's quite short as well. So even if you are a little bit skeptical, you're not going to waste much time reading it. So yeah, I would recommend picking up a copy. And yeah, I'm glad that this one did live up to my expectation, and I did rate it 5 stars, because I've seen some polarizing reviews and some people who didn't like it. So I'm glad I was one of the people who did enjoy it. Then last 2 before we move on to the one I DNF'd. Firstly, New York City in 1979 by Kathy Acker. This is one of the Penguin modern classics. Obviously it's minuscule. I read this in about half an hour, 40 minutes I think. This is actually for another video that I'm filming that I won't spoil yet, but I picked it up because I haven't picked up any in a while, so yeah, it was good to get back into them. And yeah, this is, I don't really have much expectations when it comes to these, because obviously they're so short. They're just like a glimpse into an author or a writer or somebody's writing and life. And yeah, this was definitely an interesting view about the world, and again the word unapologetic comes to mind with this, as well as luster, and yeah, I enjoyed it, but I don't think I'm gonna be rushing to read it again. I don't think I really took anything away from it that was that profound, but yeah, it was good, like I said, to pick up one of these again, because I do own quite a lot of them, so I probably should read them. And then finally we have The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. Again, I'm sure loads of you have read this because everybody seems to have done. This is about a girl called Olive who is a PhD student, and she ends up in a fake relationship with one of her professors called Adam, and he is hated by everybody. So for various reasons they end up in this fake relationship, and I kind of love a fake relationship trope. I like an enemy to lovers, I like a friends to lovers, I like just like a romance. I don't really care what type of romance, as long as somebody falls in love. That's all I'm looking for. And that definitely happened in this. I really liked how layered this was, and one thing I write in my review, which again I'll link below, is that I love how much this book celebrates friendship as well as romantic relationships. Olive has a really good set of friends, and I just really enjoyed how much she could rely on them, just listening to their analysis about the events that transpired, and their advice to her, and sort of just supporting her through that, and then obviously her supporting them through various things as well. And I do enjoy books that celebrate friendship, because, you know, we don't all necessarily end up in relationships, but you'd hope we all have friends, and so yeah, I really enjoy that books recognise the importance of having good friends and a strong friendship group around you. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. Most people do enjoy it that I see. I can understand why maybe you think it's a bit predictable, a bit cheesy, but that's just romance for you, I think. And again, this one, like Talia Hibbert, has some racy sex scenes in it, so if you like that kind of thing, then I would recommend this. And yeah, just generally I liked the writing, I thought it was funny, and I would definitely be reading more from Ali Hazelwood. And finally, Nevergreener by Ruth Jones. So this is a bit of a long book, well, long by my standards anyway. It's about 500 pages, and I got, I think, to page 200, so I did give it a good go. Now the premise of this is a girl who starts sleeping with a married man, and she and him seem like they've fallen in love, and for whatever reason they don't see each other for 17 years, and then they are reunited 17 years later. She is now married and has children, and obviously he's still with the woman that he was with when he cheated on her, and he has kids also, so they are very much anchored to their family units, and when they meet 17 years later, they basically begin their relationship once more. Now, I'm not a fan of cheating tropes. I think that a lot of books do involve some kind of cheating, and in some circumstances it's absolutely fine. Obviously, if the person is unhappy in the relationship because of the way that their spouse or partner is cheating them, it's kind of, I suppose, more justified. Although, you know, if we're going to get deep about this, in the real world you really need to address those problems rather than cheating on them, but I digress. And I also think some books do it quite well when it isn't tried to be celebrated. But this book, the two protagonists, I've forgotten their names, Kate and Callum, so they're the ones cheating. They're obviously our protagonists, so we very much see this story from their point of view. And I think that the way that Ruth Jones writes it is that we're supposed to like them. We're supposed to be like, oh, it doesn't matter that they're cheating on their other halves. You go have your fun, because clearly you're in love with each other and you've missed each other for all these years. But the whole time, all I kept thinking was, well, what about their husband and wife? I can't remember what they're called. Oh, Tallulah, no, married, Matt and Belinda are the respective husband and wife. And all I kept thinking was, what if this book was written from their point of view? We would feel awful for them. We'd be like, oh my gosh, that's so awful that they're being cheated on, that they're being hurt like that, etc, etc. Now, I only got to page 200, so in the other 300 pages, there may be some good explanation for this. There may be some way that the perspective changes and I understand it in a bit better way. But I just couldn't get past it. I couldn't get past trying to justify being that icky, to be honest. So yeah, I didn't finish this. But if you did read it and you enjoyed it, please let me know if you think that there is cause to read on. I'm not saying that I am going to pick it up and carry on, but I would be intrigued to know what the other 300 pages entail, because yeah, then it must go somewhere. She must try and show us that this cheating and this betrayal is somehow either worth it or justified or something, I don't know. So yeah, do let me know if you have read this and we can discuss. So yeah, that is all the books I read. So I read 9 and then obviously DNF'd Never Greener, so that was 10 books overall. And yeah, I really enjoyed February as a reading month. I thought that, I have just realised that I didn't actually tell you the plots of some of those books. I'm really bad at doing that. Let me just give you a quick run through. So we spoke about Luster, we spoke about that. Okay, these are the 4 I didn't tell you the plots of. So, You Had Me at Hello. That is very similar to Never Greener, actually. It's about a guy and a girl who hit it off in college. They're not in relationships, though, it's not cheating. And then when they meet again 10 years later, it's about finding that spark again, and actually, should they risk it all for love, I suppose. Then The Girl Who Reads on the Metro, there wasn't much plot in this, but the premise, it's about a girl called Juliet who rides the metro and does a lot of people watching, basically, and then for whatever reason she quits her job, her 9 to 5, and then she becomes a book passer, and she meets a guy who owns he owns a lot of books, basically, and she becomes this passer, and she essentially becomes a book matchmaker. So she finds people that have a certain issue with their life and fixes it with a certain book. It was truly beautiful. Would really recommend this. What If It's Us? It's about 2 guys in New York City. One of them is a native New Yorker and the other one has moved there for a job, and they meet in a post office, and it is essentially, you know, what if it's us? That's basically the storyline. They just contemplate, is it worth pursuing something? What if it all goes wrong? What if it's a waste of time, etc, etc. Yeah, that is basically that. And Take a Hint, Danny Brown is another one of our fake relationships. So Danny meets Zafir, who is a security guard at her university where she teaches, and they start this fake relationship because of something that happens, and then obviously they realise, is there more to this relationship than the fakeness? If you want to find out, you'll have to read it. Yeah, okay, sorry, that is all the synopses. I will try and get better at actually telling you the plots of the books. Although, you know, I'm sure you all have access to the internet, so you can look them up. But yeah, that was my month. So like I said, I thought it was a really good reading month. I had a lot of 5-star reads, which was good, but it was a shame about the DNF. But hopefully I will continue that good reading streak with March. I've read 2 books this month already, and both of them were 5 stars, so that really bodes well. And I hope it continues in that vein. But yeah, let me know what your favourite book was this month, or last month rather, in February, or your favourite book this month. Just tell me your favourite books in the comments, and let me know if you've read any of these and what you thought, and we can have a chat. And I will see you for my next video video, and I will see you next month to do my March wrap up as well. Bye!